Welcome to the Progress Texas Happy Hour.
Welcome to the Progress Texas Happy Hour. I'm Executive Director Kathleen Thompson.
And I'm Podcasting Director Chris Mosier.
For our first Happy Hour of 2026, we welcome the third Texas Democrat to join the race for Texas Attorney General, a seat now open with the multiply indicted and Texas House impeached Ken Paxton clearing out to take a shot for higher office to the U.S. Senate.
Joining the Democratic primary challenge against Texas State Senator Nathan Johnson of Dallas and former Galveston Mayor and Attorney Joe Jaworski is Tony Box, also of Dallas. He's a first-time political candidate who brings a pretty amazing resume to his first try, and that's part of why we're proud to welcome him as our first guest of the brand new year. Tony Box, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good to be here. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Kathleen.
Tony, thank you. Let's start with the basics. We're going to get into your resume, but first, would you tell us why you decided to take a crack at becoming the first Democratic Texas Attorney General since way back when with Dan Morales, whose term ended more than a quarter century ago?
Yeah, it's been quite a while. It's been going on 3 decades, and it's past time to elect a Democratic AG. And so I'll answer your question. I jumped in, joined this race because I thought that there was a need for a different type of candidate, a candidate with directly relevant experience. And I'll tell you, I know you said you'll mention a little bit about, we'll talk about my resume, but just before we get deep into my resume, I wanted to serve. I've always served, and I have a burning desire to do good work and utilize my experience in the best way possible. And I think that this race is an opportunity to do that. People encouraged me to get in a race. They wanted something different, not a career politician. And so that's what I did.
Very, very good. Your professional background, Tony, again, is pretty remarkable, including high-level military activity, federal intelligence involvement, and more recently, legal work with the Gray Reed law firm in Dallas, which specializes in defending what you might call high net worth individuals. Let's go back to the beginning of that laundry list there and tell us about your experience in the Army, your military experience.
Sure, I'd be happy to do so. Before I do that, I do want to tell you I glossed over previously, but I want to make sure that folks know why I'm doing it. Sure. So when I was very young, still in high school, I was shot. I was helping a lady with her grocery store car. I was working at a grocery store, and that was part of my job. And during that process, I ran after the guy. The guy snatched the lady's purse. I ran after him, tackled him. And while I was on top of him, he stuck a gun in my stomach and he shot me. Wow. And over the course of recovery, I'd made a promise to myself and to God that I would live a life of service. And that's exactly what I've done over the last 3 decades or so. And so shortly thereafter, I joined the Army. And so you asked specifically about my Army experience. It started when I was in college, which was just 2 years later. I went to college, I joined ROTC, and I also joined the reserve. So I did those simultaneously. And over the course of several decades, I continued to serve. I had 2 different periods of service in the Army. One was as a young man, I was a tank commander. And much later, if you want, I'll go sequentially, but I will tell you much later, I rejoined the Army. My initial time in the Army was commanding troops, large M1A1 battle tanks. Had commanded several, and we prepared for war. So it was a combat arms job, and it was one that I was happy to perform.
Tony, I have this question to ask you in just a little bit about what's happening in Venezuela. But right now, since we're talking about your time in harm's way and young men and women in harm's way, let's talk about the breaking news this weekend about the seizure of the president and first lady of Venezuela. I'd love for you to weigh in. There's no congressional approval. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says one thing, President Trump says another thing shortly later about what's happening there. But as somebody who has served our country and who's put their life on the line for our country, would you talk to us about what's happening and your take?
Sure. My take is the president invaded Venezuela, took the president of Venezuela and his wife without congressional approval, which he should not have done, which is not proper, and sending our young men and women in harm's way in that situation. In violation of the law, it's not something the president should have done. It's aggressive. It's unnecessary. The president claims to be America first, but invading another country, it is truly going to cost a lot of money. As you said, the administration story is unreconciling. That's because they are trying to make up as they go along reasons for doing this. And so it's not a wise move, and it's going to cost a lot of money. We're going to, entangled in another foreign war. I've served in Iraq. I served in Afghanistan in a different capacity, not in a military capacity. But those conflicts and entanglements are extremely expensive, hard, and unnecessary. And so this is just another one of a long list of ones, and the president should not have done it.
Do you think your initial impressions of what's happened in Venezuela? I mean, it's so fresh and it's brand new. It's different from Iraq, but there are so many similarities. In combination with your experience yourself in the Army and your vast experience since then, what are your initial feelings about the potential for Venezuela turning into a long, protracted, ultimately failing situation for our country?
I think this is very possible. The president said we're going to run the country, which is
I heard that.
unprecedented. And so our record is not extremely, stellar when it comes to these types of situations. And so, there is a very good possibility that it could turn into a long, protracted, expensive, difficult, hard to extract situation. And so it's not something that we should be doing at the moment, especially without congressional approval.
Yeah, as badly as Iraq went for the people there, and then for Americans and Americans who died there was a vote, and people's duly elected representatives had a say, and we've done nothing close to that this time.
Right.
Tony, let's get back to your personal story. After your time with the Army, you worked as an FBI special agent, including the Bureau's response to the attacks on 9/11. So you've been in the middle of a key federal agency right as it was engaged with very serious international intrigue. And I'm curious about what your take is on what that agency must be like now under Kash Patel and President Trump.
Yeah, I did serve in the FBI. I love my time as a special agent. I did wonderful things. I served all over the world. As you mentioned, I went to New York after 9/11. And many of my fellow colleagues passed away as a result of going to New York after 9/11 and breathing toxic fumes. There's an area in the FBI headquarters, the Wall of Honor, where many of those individuals did not succumb to bullet wounds, but rather toxic fumes and breathing those air. So I'm blessed to be here. When I think about all that I sacrificed for the Bureau and all that the FBI gave to me, I'm really disheartened to see what the agency has turned into, a political organization.
Right.
We prided ourselves on being apolitical. Whatever the facts are, ma'am or sir, that's what the facts are. And we didn't follow a particular party or a leader who just told us to go here and there and everywhere. We enforced the law as it was written. And it's sad to see. I'm still in touch with many of my buddies who are there or who have recently left, and they're all very, very disenchanted. They aren't allowed to do their job. They're directed into missions that generally we haven't done, and they're having to abandon real solid criminal investigations where bad people are getting away with crimes.
Kind of leading up towards your run for Attorney General, Tony, tell us about your experience with your recent work as an attorney involved in white collar affairs to get to the business of the Attorney General of Texas. How does your recent work experience inform your views of who exactly Ken Paxton has really been watching out for over the last decade in Texas, and how that would be different with you in that key role?
Sure. In addition, yes, I'm a lawyer at a firm, Gray Reed in Texas, but I think the way to answer that question is I was also a federal prosecutor and litigator in court, and now I'm the same on the outside. And so I'm informed by those positions on both sides of the versus United States versus a defendant. And I've represented the United States and I've represented defendants as well. And so I have a bird's eye view as to what Ken Paxton is doing. And he's abusing the legal system. He's bringing frivolous lawsuits under the name of the state. And there could be nothing more powerful than bringing a lawsuit against a person or even a company with the full force of the government behind you. not many people can defend themselves against the government
Right.
effectively. And Ken Paxton is relying on that. He knows that he's an 800-pound gorilla, or the state is. And so therefore he sends out frivolous letters and files frivolous lawsuits. If they're not frivolous, then oftentimes they're political. And so it's very, very depressing and disheartening to see what he's done. And my position on that is, I know what it's like to work in a large enforcement organization, and I know that you do not engage in those type of prosecutions or political theaters or acts or actions just to hurt people. And instead, you should file lawsuits where there's merit, where those lawsuits have merit, and not just against your political enemies. And so, as Attorney General, that's how I would operate, and that's how the entire office would operate. So many offices are a reflection of their leadership. When you come in the office day one, you should tell your entire Attorney General staff, this is how we're going to operate. We're going to operate with integrity, and we are not going to pursue our enemies. We have no enemies. Our fidelity is to the law and the Constitution, and that's it.
Tony, I cannot remember a time when the Texas Attorney General worked for the people of Texas. Greg Abbott famously said before he was governor, I wake up in the morning, I sue the federal government, and I come home. And it was like a sport for him. What he did and what Ken Paxton did, it is not the work of what an attorney general's job should be. We're talking representing Texas consumers, Texas families, the child support division. There is so much that the attorney general's office does not prioritize because it's about political sport and political favors, which led to the House impeachment of Ken Paxton. Of course, he was cleared in the Senate with a presiding officer of, Dan Patrick, who received $3 million before the decision. It's corruption all the way down. Say a little bit more about even before we're talking about the business of the office. Say a little bit more about the importance of integrity of the office. So I just think that it's so essential to the business of the office. And we're seeing that also at the presidential level and the federal level, who is in that office and their personal integrity and their personal biography matters so much to the job that they will then do. Would you say a little bit more about that?
It does. Integrity is paramount. And your people who work for you realize it. The citizens realize it. When you bring integrity to the office and you refuse to engage in political acts because other people are asking you to, people recognize it, just like they recognize Ken Paxton for his corruption. But when you are clearly operating solely for the purpose of protecting people and for the citizens of Texas, then people understand that as well. You must bring integrity. The next attorney general has to bring integrity to the office, or else it's not going to be effective, just like it's not effective now. And so I have lived a life of integrity. Service, integrity has been paramount to me and has been really, really important as I progressed in my career. I've gone through top secret security clearances since I was 18 years old, and I had to live my life in a certain type of way in order to obtain those security clearances, whether it was in the Army, whether it was in the FBI, whether it was in the DOJ, or whether it was I was going over to Afghanistan in a civilian capacity. And so I have lived my life in a way where I wanted people to understand that I'm not about a particular party. I'm about doing the right thing all the time.
Very, very good. So, Tony, should you win the nomination, you'd be up against a Republican who also has not held this office, being an open seat. Tell us what you would say to an undecided voter, should you be the nominee, who might be thinking that just getting Ken Paxton himself personally out of the way and out of that office is plenty to restore that office. Tell us why the next Attorney General needs to be a Democrat and why that Democrat needs to be Tony Box.
Sure. That person needs to be a Democrat because that person needs to be independent and understand how that office operates, and understand that just because you get a call from Washington, D.C. that says you need 5 congressional seats, you don't go do that.
Right.
You follow the law, you follow the Constitution. You don't follow someone in Washington, D.C. and bend to his knee just because he says something to you. And so it needs to be a Democrat, because a Republican won't do that. They won't stand up to the White House, and they won't stand up to Republican leadership.
Right.
And I assume all Democrats will, but I know that Tony Fox will. I have no desire to bend to the knee of Donald Trump or anyone else. And so that person needs to be someone who understands that the Attorney General is elected by the people, is a constitutional officer with independent authority, and does not take orders from the governor nor the president, and cannot be bought or bullied. And that certainly is my position, and that's how I'll be not bought, not bullied, and I will work independently and irrespective of what they want.
Would you share with us real quick as we begin to wind down here, feedback that you may have gotten from folks that you've met while you've been out campaigning and, being out meeting Texans?
Sure.
What messages are you hearing from those folks? We know about, economic concerns. Now there are, more geopolitical concerns that have arisen in just the last few days. There are a lot of things to talk about, but what are you hearing from Texans that you're meeting on porches and at events around Texas?
So a couple of things. One is, you mentioned economic concerns. People are smarter than what we give them credit for. People realize that billions of dollars have been taken from the state of Texas, and Ken Paxton has not fought to recover those funds. People in rural areas, when I talk to people in rural areas, they realize that their hospitals are closing because funds have been taken from them from the federal government, and no one is fighting for them. The same goes for SNAP benefits. No one is fighting when SNAP benefits are proposed to be taken from the people. And so that's one thing. And they're saying, look, we need someone to fight. This money is Texas money. Oftentimes it has come from Texas and by way of taxes to the federal government. And Ken Paxton refuses to fight to get it back. And so people are upset about that. Another thing is kind of personal to me. Is I hear, and I had a very long conversation with someone very recently about the child support system, which the Attorney General has primary authority for enforcement over. Yep. And it's not working. It's broken. Very good people in there, but the system is not working because it's being neglected. Ken Paxton does not care about it. What he cares about is filing these lawsuits and directing all of his energies to that, whereas people rely on that child support. It has been ordered by a judge. And I have personal experience with that. I grew up under a single mom, and my dad was ordered to pay child support, and he didn't pay it for many years. And it affected the family. And there are millions of families around Texas that are being affected because we have an ineffective child support system. And so that's one thing that people are talking to me about and asking me to improve when I become Attorney General, and I'm committed to doing so.
Maybe if you don't spend time harassing doctors in New York and children's hospitals in Washington State,
right.
There'd be time to run the office. Tony, you got into the race later than your two Democratic primary opponents. So could you tell us, hold back the curtain just a little bit and tell us about how you're trying to get the word out about your candidacy and about why you would be the best candidate in just a few short weeks? Early voting starts in about 6 weeks, right?
Yes, that's correct. So we're trying to get out anywhere and everywhere. We're trying to talk to the people through all means, electronic, in person, in churches, in shopping centers, everywhere we can go. We want to get out to the people and talk about our message and talk about, quite frankly, the relevant experience that I bring to the table. And we have found through numerous conversations and also a poll which says that people care about someone who spent 20 years in the United States Army serving and has a servant leader mindset who will serve the people. And, oftentimes people say some variation of this. You can know what a person is going to do or likely do by what they've done. And so what I've done is served, and that's all I have care to do. And so I'm going to get out and tell people about my message and let them know that I have experience, relevant experience, and I think it's going to resonate. And we feel really good about the campaign so far.
Yeah, we've seen recent polling that a lot of people are undecided in this race. your two political opponents in the primary are pretty much neck and neck, but a lot of people maybe are paying attention to the governor's race or others. And honestly, with the way that our Texas Attorney General behaves, maybe people don't understand what the role of the Texas Attorney General's office is, and you could forgive them for not knowing. Tony, before we wrap up, is there anything else that you would like listeners to know that we haven't asked you about today?
Sure. I want people to know a little bit about how I feel about serving the people and about being there, people in their most difficult situations. So often, the Attorney General is seen as a hammer, as someone who's enforcing the law. But the Attorney General also has an opportunity to educate and to make lives better, to sue on behalf of individual citizens, companies, and to fight for them. And so often people focus on suing the federal government and defending the state against lawsuits, but people need to know that individuals, child support, folks who are looking for their child support, folks who've been scammed and taken advantage of. I have done that. I have fought for these people, the rich and the powerful, and I'm not afraid to do so again. And I look forward to doing so as the Attorney General, and would love to have the Texans join me in this fight, and because it's worthy. It's necessary.
Tony, how can people do that? Tell us how people can find out more about your campaign and get in touch with your campaign.
So the best way is my website. It's called Tony Box for Texas. It's Tony Box FOR for Texas.com. And you can volunteer there. We are a grassroots campaign, wonderful reception, plenty of volunteers. And so please, we ask you to join us in volunteering and getting the word out and improving the state of Texas, because we all want a better Texas. No one here says, I want my state to be worse. Right. And so the way we do that is by standing up and joining hands together. We all, you go over a wall together. People are afraid to go over the wall, but when you go over together, there's far less chance that they're going to be able to pick one person off, and then whole unit goes down. And so we need to fight together as a large group against some of the corruption that's coming out of Austin.
Very, very good, Tony. Terrific to get to know you better. Dallas attorney and candidate for Attorney General of Texas, Tony Box. Good luck on the campaign trail and be safe out there.
Thank you so much. I appreciate everything.
Thank you, Tony. Our mission at Progress Texas is to counter the billionaire and corporate-funded conservative disinformation machine, and we rely largely on listener support to do what we do. While we enjoy the support of hundreds of partners, chances are that you, dear listener, haven't joined the team yet. If you're a regular, let's get you on board right now. What a great way to start the new year at ProgressTexas.org.
Progress Texas is a nonprofit rapid response media organization promoting progressive messages and actions. While campaigns come and go, we're the permanent home for progressive media and action in the Lone Star State. Thanks for listening. And for Kathleen Thompson and Tony Box, be safe out there, and we'll see you again next time.
Bye, y'all.
Thank you all. Bye.